The Menendez brothers' case is one of the most infamous in modern American criminal history, blending wealth, family tension, and brutal violence. This tragic story unfolded in the late 1980s and captured national attention, revealing a family dynamic steeped in dysfunction, leading to a deadly end. In the late 1980s, the Menendez family was the picture of the American dream. Jose Menendez, a wealthy Cuban-American immigrant, had built a highly successful career as an executive in the entertainment industry. He and his wife, Kitty, lived in a lavish mansion in Beverly Hills, California, with their two sons, Lyle and Eric. Outwardly, the family appeared perfect, privileged, successful, and close-knit. But beneath the surface, the Menendez household was riddled with conflict and dysfunction. Jose was a demanding and authoritarian figure, known for his control over the family, especially his sons. Kitty, on the other hand, was described as emotionally fragile, dealing with depression and feelings of inadequacy. The boys grew up in this environment of high expectations, pressure, and emotional turbulence. On the night of August 20th, 1989, everything would change. Lyle and Eric, 21 and 18 years old at the time, entered the family's mansion and carried out a brutal and shocking crime. That evening, the Menendez brothers shot both of their parents in cold blood. Jose was sitting on the couch in the family room when the brothers attacked him first, shooting him multiple times with a 12-gauge shotgun. Kitty, who had been in another room, tried to flee but was quickly caught and shot as well. She was shot several times, and according to investigators, had been crawling on the floor when the final shots were fired. The crime was gruesome, with the sheer brutality of the murders horrifying law enforcement when they arrived at the scene. Jose had been shot point blank in the back of the head, while Kitty's body was riddled with bullets. After killing their parents, Lyle and Eric attempted to cover up the crime. They staged the scene to make it appear as though it had been the work of burglars, even going as far as to leave the house and dump the shotguns. They then drove to a nearby movie theater, purchasing tickets to provide themselves with an alibi, before returning home and calling 911 in a panic, claiming to have found their parents murdered. For months, the brothers maintained the appearance of grieving sons, even going on extravagant spending sprees with their inheritance money. They bought luxury cars, expensive watches, and took trips around the world. Their behavior raised eyebrows, but for a time, authorities did not seriously consider them suspects. It wasn't until Eric, consumed with guilt, confessed to his therapist that the truth came out. The therapist's girlfriend overheard the confession and eventually reported it to the police. On March 8, 1990, the Menendez brothers were arrested and charged with the murders of their parents. The brothers' trial became a national sensation in the early 1990s. Their defense shocked the public. Lyle and Eric claimed that the murders were not motivated by greed, but by years of abuse at the hands of their father, Jose. They described Jose as a cruel, abusive figure who sexually, emotionally, and physically abused them throughout their childhood. Kitty, they claimed, was aware of the abuse but did nothing to stop it. The defense painted the brothers as victims who, in a moment of desperation, believed that killing their parents was the only way to escape the abuse. The prosecution, however, argued that the murders were motivated by greed. They pointed to the brothers' lavish spending after the killings as evidence of a premeditated act carried out to gain their parents' wealth. The brothers were living a life of luxury at the time, and prosecutors argued that their financial demands had caused tension in the family. The prosecution also contended that there was no concrete evidence to support the claims of abuse. The first trial ended in a hung jury, as the defense's portrayal of the brothers as victims resonated with some jurors. However, In the second trial, the focus shifted back to the cold-blooded nature of the crime, and in 1996 both Lyle and Eric Menendez were convicted of first-degree murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Menendez brothers' case remains a symbol of the complexities of family relationships and the dark side of wealth and privilege. It raised serious questions about abuse, the pressures of family expectations, and the psychology of desperation and fear. Some believe that Lyle and Eric were truly victims of horrific abuse, while others view them as cold-hearted killers who concocted a story to save themselves from punishment. To this day, the Menendez brothers maintain their version of events. They have spent the last 2 decades in prison, both eventually marrying while incarcerated. Their story has been the subject of numerous documentaries, books, and even TV adaptations, keeping the public's fascination alive with this tragic and perplexing family drama.